it is a real industry and there are real careers in it. It is
Yeah.
just that we are clearly not very good at, translating that into the world and to say, hey, but, and look at all these great things that you can learn.
Hi, and welcome to Hospitality Huddles. I'm Scott Turner, and each episode we'll be uncovering the industry's biggest challenges and serving up the solutions to help overcome them. We're bringing together some of the best thought leaders in the industry and finding some of the most creative minds shaping the future of hospitality from all around the world. They're going to share insights tackling the pain points operators just like you face every day. Hospitality Huddles is more than a podcast, it's a community of passionate individuals who appreciate the art and science of hospitality and want to help answer the difficult questions. If you like the show, one of the best ways to support us is to hit that subscribe button and leave a review. It's only going to take a couple of minutes and it really does make the difference. So let's get on with today's episode, and all that's left to say is welcome to Hospitality Huddles, where hospitality meets conversation, one huddle at a time. Hi, Wouter. Thanks for joining us on the show today. Really appreciate you coming on. And I know we've talked previously, so it's great to have your thoughts on the show today. So we're going to open the question like we always do with everyone. And what does hospitality mean to you?
Oh, wow. 30 years of my life. Yeah, no, it was a choice I made a long time ago. And I think it came out of a desire to travel, see the world. And back then, that was the way to do it. I mean, nowadays you got digital nomads, but yeah, I think back then, hospitality mean you were the nomad that could travel the world. So it means to me that I've seen through hospitality, I've been able to see so many places in the world and have experienced so many things that I would not have experienced if I wouldn't have done hospitality to start with. I think it also means opportunities. I think it gave me a lot of opportunities, but it also gave me the opportunity to help other people with opportunities in their careers and their dreams and things that they wanted to achieve and wanted to see. So yeah, to me, it means a lot. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people can resonate with a lot of what you've just said. Then I know I certainly can, especially on that travel front. It really does give lots of opportunities, doesn't it? And I was on a podcast in January, and we were talking about kind of what my 5 learnings were from hospitality. And one of the things I said was I think everyone should travel, and I think everyone should go and work in a different culture and environment, because it teaches you so many different skills on a professional and a personal level, doesn't it? Absolutely, 100%. And I think that's the great thing about hospitality. I think because you have to be so well-rounded that you learn a lot. I mean, it's not you can be in a specific role, but you have to be not just in that role and fulfill the role, say, of a manager. You'll have to know about HR. You'll have to know a little bit about marketing. You have to know a little bit about finance. I mean, and I think that's the beauty about hospitality, is that it makes you very well-rounded in the job, but also in your skill set. So you've talked about traveling. So let's let everyone know a little bit about background about you and some of those countries that you've worked in and experienced. Oh yeah. No, I think for me, I'm originally Dutch, and had some opportunities to do some internships as I was going through for university, and that brought me to the Caribbean. That brought me within Europe to Germany, and after that, when I finished, it was time to leave Europe, and that's what I did. I went through the US to New Zealand, to the Pacific. The last place I was at was in Singapore, and I did all kinds of roles, starting off with housekeeping, and then become a housekeeping supervisor, to going into accounts, into finance, doing food and beverage control, becoming a director of purchasing, even a director of IT early on in my career. And from there, started moving through all the F&B layers to then going to rooms and move through the rooms layers and then back to F&B as a director of F&B, and so on and on. And then I had the opportunity to start my own companies, and that was fantastic. And I ended up with a few cafes and a bar, restaurant, and a catering and events company, and even a hospitality training school, to go back into luxury hotels, and had the opportunity to open luxury hotels in different locations, different countries, and then back to what I do today, and that's hospital life. So it's been a very interesting and well-diverse travel around the world, but also in terms of professional career.
Yeah, and seeing those different parts of the hotel is often the things that kind of give you so many different skills around. And I was always kind of in the F&B part of the hotel, but it wasn't until I started going into managing some of the other functions that you really start to see how the hotels tick in terms of rooms, housekeeping, concierge, security, engineering, and you kind of take it for granted sometimes just sitting in F&B. And what did the different departments teach you? What is there anything that kind of sticks out with F&B, with housekeeping, that kind of was a difference that you took through your career?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, each department will teach you a certain thing, and I think what I learned in housekeeping, and I'm happy I did that very early on in my career, is that you need to be very, very well organized and planned in order to have only X amount of hours to clean rooms and reset the hotel for the next guest.
Yeah,
that's a lot of time pressure, and you got to be organized. You got to plan things up front before you even start, and if you don't do that well, then you're not going to make it. It's not going to happen. And that so I think that's where housekeeping was a really good learning school. Where it was really about, okay, how do we plan these things, and how do we make sure that in a short amount of time we have those rooms ready so that the next guest can come in at the time of check-in. I think then going to F&B, I think F&B is, of course, there's a certain amount of planning happening in F&B, but what I definitely noticed in food and beverage is that you got to be very creative, and you got to be very switched on. You got to constantly learn how to respond quick. There's a lot of things happening. There's a lot of things that you can't plan for. So you have to be in the moment. You got to be very watchful. You got to make sure that you pick up on the little things and respond to that very quickly. So I think that's probably what I learned out of food and beverage again. So every department will bring something that you'll take, and that's why I think it's so great if you have the opportunity to go for different departments, because what you learn in one you can take in some way to the other and apply again.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. And when you're talking about F&B, I think that those reactive skills of how you can deal with situations on the cuff is probably one of the ones that I picked up on the most. And I often found that presence was probably more important in F&B than probably other departments, just because you have to be there, you have to be with your team, you have to be seeing these things coming before they happen. And some of those skills were really unique. So in terms of hospital life, tell everybody what you're doing now, what the mission is, and what you want to achieve with what you're doing there.
Yeah, so hospital life came from the idea of how can we support each other in a way that we can take all those skills and we can take all those experiences and bring all these things together in one place. And then I started thinking about, so what are all the stakeholders? And when you open hotels, like I've done as well, you need every stakeholder in order to achieve the target. Now, when I had my own cafes, bars, and restaurants, it was no dissimilar, but the only big difference between the two is that you don't have all those stakeholders at hand. You're, in general, an operator by yourself. You wear all the hats at the same time. Anything you want costs a lot of money. And definitely when I think you come out of hotels, you take that for granted, that you got somebody in sales, somebody in marketing, somebody in HR, somebody in finance, and there's all these supportive departments that can help you in your journey, in your process, in your targets, your goals. When you got your own place, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but you see, you need to get third parties, and you got to pay good money for third parties to help you in your journey. And a lot of times when you start your own restaurant, bar, cafe, whatever it might be, you don't have those kind of funds to actually spend that on it. So then I thought, how can we help? How can we help people that are setting up their own businesses? How can we help people that want to make a career in hospitality? How can we get students to start their career? How can we get more students? Because at the moment, I'm talking to a lot of schools. I mean, student numbers are down. The hospitality is looking for staff consistently anywhere around the world. So how can we do that? So that's where Hospital Life comes from. So it was about, okay, all the stakeholders. So we have, of course, the potential new students. We got the students. We got the people that work in it. We have, with that, of course, the schools. We got the suppliers. And we got, the people that deliver advisory services to the industry. We need to sell our product. So that's how we got it, how we got to it. So we brought it all together. So when you come onto Hospital Life, it really exists out of a few modules, and those modules represent each stakeholder of that we have within hospitality and tourism. Starts with hospital advisory. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to digitalize some of the advisory. So if someone is starting their own cafe, bar, restaurant, or you want to know how it is, what you need to do to become a front office manager or to become an F&B manager or whatever your dream might be, in this digitalized advisory services, we try to put as much advice through word as well as through video. And then we do that at a membership price per month. So now all of a sudden, these things that are somewhat unaffordable become affordable. If you then look further for people that can really help you on the ground, and you say, listen, I need somebody here in my business that can help me and that can tailor that to my business, then we bring on board partners that are specialized in that, and they will be on the platform as well. And then we thought, if we, and that brings us to other stakeholders in suppliers as well. So we have hospital partners. So in there we have the people that deliver you the groceries, to the people that deliver you the table, to anything that we need to run hospitality. And an average hotel will have hundreds, if not thousands, of suppliers in order to serve as a hotel. And every restaurant and bar, will have maybe not thousands, but definitely still,
Sure.
100 or so supplied on the restaurant or bar. So we try to bring all those together, and we try to find real quality suppliers. We're trying to find real quality advisory services that can really support that industry on a global level. Then we thought, okay, we need to bring in schools. So we got a section that's called Hospital Schools, and that's where we can bring in the students as well as the schools. There's an opportunity to set up alumni. There's opportunities to set up student groups on there. There's opportunities for schools to promote or to showcase essentially their school, but that can be from a school that is a traditional school to there's actually some really great online schools nowadays as well. So to online education, it can be from the person who's looking to enter the industry. It can be from someone who's looking to upskill through ongoing learning courses. So we're bringing the schools in on the hospital schools. Then, of course, the next step in your career is finding jobs. So we have a job platform on there called Hospital Jobs. And then we also got something, and this is where I think the fun part needs to come in a bit. When I started in the industry, I had wonderful industry rates. We could stay in great places around the world for very, very little money back in the days. And those industry rates, those rates for staff, that kind of watered down a lot. But I think it's such an important part, because despite not getting paid a lot, the part that I could stay in 5-star luxury hotels when I was in my early 20s made it actually really great.
Yeah.
Because that little bit of money I made, went a long way. And I was staying in hotels for $20 that would cost hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, where, a lot of definitely my friends, but even, my parents maybe couldn't even say that. So that made it really great. And that was way before we could put it on Instagram, but still it was good fun. So I think those are the things that, that we kind of miss. So we set up a part that's called Hospital Explorers. And it's really to put industry rates on. So it's really on a Monday or a Tuesday or a Wednesday when you might be quiet in your business. I put some great, wonderful rates on there for the rest of, the people that work in hospitality. And those are the days that they're off. And it can be from a lunch to a dinner to a stay, or it can be some kind of tourist activity. It doesn't matter, but it's really about, at some level, make some extra revenue on the days that you might not make enough revenue, and on the other side, give back to the industry and showcase, the fun that the industry really is. So that was kind of the final stakeholder in it. So we brought that all into one platform. And it's really to showcase and to say, like, guys, this is a wonderful industry. I mean, we want the next generation to see and have a place to go to and to say, well, this is, the industry, and it is actually a lot of fun, and I should join this. And I think the other thing is, nowadays parents are so involved in the process of picking a study. Back in the days, well, at least when I was growing up, it wasn't that much. But now, parents are very much involved, and I hear that from all the universities. And let me tell you, parents want you to be a doctor in finance. They want you to be in IT. Hospitality, unfortunately, is not high on their list either. So how wonderful would it be if there's a place, where next generations can go to and say, but mom, dad, this is a real industry. Let me show you, and you can go onto a place like Hospital Life, and there are all the great jobs that you can do. And hey, wait, you know what? There are jobs in IT, in hospitality. And maybe it's not for a hotel company. Maybe it's for the supplier that, supplies to the hotel company with some of their wonderful software. So to really showcase that it's much broader, there are many opportunities, and to get the next generation excited about it. So that's why we got Hospital Life.
Yeah, and it's really important, isn't it? I think in terms of, and we had this conversation before about benefits, is that, the new generation are travelers. The new generation want to explore, they want to experience, and often a lot of their spare time is spent on experience. So as a group and as a business, how you can help deliver that to your employees or your team members is what's going to keep them engaged and stay there. Because certainly I'm seeing it in venues I'm working with. They want to learn more soft skills, so that they're happy to accept the hard skills in terms of how you serve a guest, how you deliver something to a table, but they also want to develop in themselves. So those soft skills they want developing, and then the benefits need to be kind of personal to what they want. So I think a lot of what you're doing at Hospital Life kind of plays into that and offers an outlet for maybe SMEs, maybe small single unit boutique hotels or restaurants to really get involved and start offering some of those things to their employees and trying to kind of gain engagement, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's really focused on two sides. I mean, one is it's me as an individual, and I work a lot with students as well. I just had 2 groups of students doing projects for Hospital Life as well. And it's the sad part is, like, when you find out that half of the students that chose a career of hospitality by choosing a school and education for it, that already at the end of the education, that half of them already decided not to go into it. And so here we are, in having the problem already to find students to get that next generation on board. And then by the time they finish their studies, half of them already decided that they're actually going to go into telecom or they're going to do something else. And I think that we need to stop that. I think that we need to really showcase as an industry that we have those opportunities too. And that's where I really hope with Hospital Life that we can showcase the broadness of our industry and the opportunities that we really truly have. And I think that what I meant with broader is, if someone is interested in learning and development, and you are in a hotel and you can only get to a certain point because there's only so many of those roles. I know that every university is looking for people that can teach, that can lecture, that can, so they're looking. So, well, if we got great people that are great at learning and development, why don't they go and work at a hotel school for a while? And after a few years, they might say, listen, now there's an opening back in hotels. Let me go back to hotels. And showcase that it is a very broad industry by working together with all the stakeholders, instead of losing out, losing the person that thinks I'm stuck to a completely different industry. And I've seen that a lot too. They can't get further in L&D in hotels, and all of a sudden, there's an opening at L&D at a completely different industry. So they make the switch to another industry. And the problem there is we lose them, in general, we lose them forever. So on Hospital Life, we will also, like on Hospital Jobs, we will only allow industry-related businesses on the platform to promote their jobs, put their things on there, because we really need to start trying to showcase the totality and try to keep people within our industry.
Yeah, and it's quite a scary statistic to hear that people going into university with the anticipation of working in the industry want to leave. What are some of the key reasons that you're seeing from those schools of why that's happening? Because that looks like a real focus plan for a lot of people in the industry to really start targeting, hospitality institutions and some of kind of the local bodies and things.
Yeah, so it differs a little bit, but I think some of it comes down to the experience. There's a level of expectation versus the delivery of the experience when they get into the industry.
Yeah,
and I think that there is in general, there is what would be the best word for it? It's not aligned. So they go to university, they learn certain things, they come in the industry, and then essentially their first experience in the industry is a disappointment. It doesn't deliver on what they thought it was going to deliver to them. And I think definitely with the newer generation, where in my generation, we probably were a little bit more like, okay, well, head down, we're going to push along, it will come. That doesn't exist. That is no longer there. So we need to realize that we live in a society of instant gratification. I mean, back in the days, I had to go on a bike to a library to get the information that I wanted, and then I had to go to the aisle to find it. There was a process of finding things now. Nowadays, we just grab our phone and here we go. And that translates completely into how society works nowadays. So that also translates into how the younger generation thinks. So if things are not living up to, what they thought it was going to be, then there is not a long road, where you have to fix that, So I think one is a mentality thing, but I think we can't go around that. I mean, that is just the way it works nowadays. So I think we need to be much more aware of that in the industry, and that when the next generation comes in, that we play, towards that new generation. I think it's finding a balance. Technology is a good example. So we have inherently been a little bit behind the ball game when it's about implementing technology in hospitality. So now here's the danger, because of COVID, we've started to implement a bit faster. But the older generation, if we go too fast and we don't explain it well enough and we don't give them the right guidance, they will go home and are stressed, and go, I'm never going to learn this. This is no longer for me. Maybe I need to go. So all of a sudden, we got people leaving. If we don't go fast enough, the new generation comes in and goes like, Excel, really? I mean, there are programs for this, huh? So, and it will be disappointing, and they can't work with that, and they'll leave. So finding the right balance of how do we implement technology. We need to go fast, but we can't scare off, the older generation, and in the meantime, we need to go fast enough to pull in the new generation. So so one of the things I found is those are some of the issues. So it just doesn't live up to expectation. I think that the other thing is that we've done, and what I've heard as well, is because we're short staffed, we bring in interns. These interns come in and they, are there purely to fill up, the gaps that we have in our staffing issues. So the intern is disappointing. It didn't live up to the expectation of, hey, I have an internship here and I was going to learn all this and I was going to do that. And here all of a sudden, I'm working odd shifts and I just get plugged in here. And the next day I work in room service and the next day I work there because, I'm kind of plugging holes here. So after that experience, they come back and go like, oh, wow, if that's the industry, then no, that's not for me. So, so I think really getting a better connection and better understanding between universities, between education providers and the industry, and how we can bridge the gaps there and how we should communicate, on both sides of the coin to make sure that the expectation level is set right. I think that is already one start in order to keep students and get them into the industry.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a really valid point about the new generation, and I've got two examples that sits very closely with what you're saying in the last couple of weeks. The first one was we gave a proposal for a project that's happening in LA, and it's very much focused at Gen Z, TikTok, kind of Instagram generation, YouTube generation. And I was chatting with one of my team, and one of my team said, "This is going to be a brilliant project. It's going to be exciting. It's 18 months long. We're going to get lots to do on it, but we're not the right people to be creative on this project." I said, "What do you mean? That's bonkers. It's a brilliant project, really exciting." He said, "But we're not the right age." He said, "We do not think like the people who are going to be coming in and eating, and we need to find some of that resource on the team to be able to talk in the same language so that we can then create what is going to be relevant for those people." And I think we have to start opening our minds up to the fact that the generation that's coming through now as potential guests is very different to maybe the ones that we would have traditionally targeted. And it's how we use that talent and how we use that skill to be able to make us relevant in terms of an agency or an industry moving forwards. And that really sat with me quite a bit. The second one was, we were talking yesterday with a client in a hotel, and we were talking about how we can train the team because the F&B guys are overwhelmed. The short staff, so people are getting thrown in, and they've got kind of the traditional induction and things there from a hotel perspective. People go and sit for a day. And I was kind of sitting there going, well, the problem we've got now is a lot of the new generation use short form content. And that is how they go about their everyday life. They deliver things in 280 word tweets. They do threads now. They do TikTok and videos that are kind of 30 to 60 minutes long, 60 seconds long. So if you're delivering a day's training, it's probably not relevant anyway, because they're probably switched off after an hour because it's too much for them. So it's how you can then take what you want to teach them, break that into short form content that becomes much more relevant and engaging. And as long as it delivers the same results, it doesn't matter whether it's in a classroom and you get to see them and take them through a journey, or whether they're doing that online and you're doing regular checkups. It's about making it relevant to the people who are coming into the business. And you touched on it quite rightly. The new generation aren't scared to vote with their feet if something isn't right for them. And I think that's where a lot of operators now have to start really looking at some of those old processes. And as you rightly say, how can we use technology to talk to our team members how they want to be spoken to? Because kind of the way of us dictating how we do things is like you quite rightly said, it's kind of past. Those two examples really sat with me as you were talking through the schools and why people aren't moving into the industry.
Yeah, and I think, and quite frankly, when I entered the industry, the baby boomers had similar issues with us as the X generation.
Yeah.
I mean, we were already different and doing things differently, and we already wanted. Back then, it was we wanted careers, and we didn't want to be in the same job for 23 years with the same, and the funny with the same employer. But the interesting part is we say certain things now. Again, we say, they don't want to be with the same employer for 23 years. Well, let me tell you, that was the same comment baby boomers made about the X generation when I entered. So that particular part might have not changed even that much. But what has changed is definitely like what you just said, the way that we communicate with them. They do not have the same perseverance of like head down and we will, at some point I will get there. That definitely changed, Yeah. So, but each generation, there will be changes, and there's nothing wrong with that because that's called evolution, and this is how we move forward in society. So, I think it's just more about how do we respond to it, how do we deal with it, and that is something that I don't think we have fully figured out yet in our industry. And we need to fast because numbers are dwindling, less people are interested to join the industry, student numbers are down. So So together, and that's really what we're trying to do with Hospital Life, is like, well, we all know a part of the puzzle. We all have a certain amount of experience. And since I've started Hospital Life, and I'm talking to educators, and I'm talking to industry, and I'm talking to consultants, and all the stakeholders that, you know, kind of come together on Hospital Life, everybody has a story, and everybody essentially has a piece of this puzzle on how to resolve this. And that's hopefully with Hospital Life we can bring all this knowledge and all these skills together, and to say, okay, now going forward, if we do it together and we do it this way, then, you know, we might make this industry more attractive again. We can create an image that, you know, is there for next generations to come, and to say like, oh wow, hospitality is a real industry. Because I think nothing really, this issue of not being able to find new generations is not a Corona issue. This started, you know, a decade ago. I mean, we 10, 12 years ago, we already had issues with finding staff. I mean, that started then. And we already had, you know, staff that would work for us and say, yeah, I'm kind of doing this, so I have something to do until I know what I'm really going to do. And there was nothing worse. Somebody who's very passionate about hospitality and made it a career, to hear somebody say, yeah, I'm kind of thinking about what my real job's going to be, but, you know, until then I do this. And I go like, what is this then? You know, what am I doing? I'm going to work in a job that's not real. And I think most of us will have had these experiences if you've been in it long enough. So it is a real industry, and there are real careers in it. It is just that we are clearly not very good at, you know, translating that into the world, and to say, hey, but, you know, and look at all these great things that you can learn. And that's really, like I said, with Hospital Life, we're really trying to broaden that horizon and say, it is much bigger than you maybe think, you know. And your parents might, you go to the hotel school and you become a waiter, or maybe the restaurant manager. You can go to the hotel school and you can become the CEO of an IT company that develops software for hospitality. I mean, so it's that broad. And I know people that are in those roles as well. So for
sure,
I think we just need to sell it. We just need to bring that out in the world and tell people about it. And that's, I hope with Hospital Life we can start doing it.
No, and I would totally agree with you. I'm working with 3 founders at the minute on a SaaS program looking at onboarding, and it's specializing in onboarding hospitality people into businesses, and it's born out of their experience of working in hospitality and not being onboarded properly, and that's where it's come out of. And they're now kind of leading a tech business that's primarily focused on hospitality. So I think it does bring so many different opportunities in terms of skills. So, and I think if you could give operators now kind of a couple of key takeaways that kind of sums up everything we've just talked about over the last kind of 20 minutes, what would those kind of actions be that they could potentially implement over the next couple of weeks to start making a difference?
I think one of the things is really understand, you know, what it is that next generation is looking for. I mean, we're going to need, like any industry, we need every role in our business, from, you know, the career waiter to the career housekeeper, to the person who wants to be the manager, to the person who wants to be in IT, the person who wants to do HR and is passionate about learning about. We need all of it. And I think what's really, really key is when we have staff, or when we're looking for staff, let's make sure that we listen to what they want, and let's make sure that we don't push them into directions that they don't want to go. I think throughout my career, I've often seen that management is, you know, has an idea of where they want that person to be, or where they want that person to go. We need to stop that. We need to take a step back and say, where is it that you want to go? Some people get forced into being the manager of the restaurant, and it's not what they want. They want to be the career waiter. That's what they want. They don't want the responsibilities. And still, I've seen often enough that we're trying to push someone towards it because we need that role filled, or we think that, you know, a career ladder has to be vertical and cannot be horizontal. So I think, and that's something you can easily do, because you can start tomorrow to sit down with your team members, and you can start listening to them. don't have a predefined idea of what they're supposed to be and supposed to do. Listen to what they would like to be and like to do, and respect the fact of what that is, and then support them in that journey. That is one thing that is super, super easy. It is just some listening skills, and then, work with them on trying to achieve that. So I think that's one thing. I think, so that's for your existing. I think when you're looking for team members, again, be very clear in what you put out there. What is it that they can expect? It is a society that has inherently become more about what's in it for me. So be clear in your communication. What's in it for you is this, 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 this. I mean, nobody wants to work split shifts anymore. I think we need to realize what is still acceptable nowadays, what's not acceptable. So if you put a job post out there, don't put things in there that are no longer acceptable. Make sure that you do your rostering, your planning in a way that it is acceptable to the current generation. Make sure that that is well communicated in your job post. Make sure that, it is very clear about what is in it for them. I mean, these are things that you can start with tomorrow. It's not super hard. Get in contact with education providers. Find out what it is. What is the message that they give to their students? Does that message align with how you run your business? Does it align with when the intern comes in, or when they are finished with school and they start working for you? Does that message align with you? And I'm not saying here that the education provider is right, or you as a business is right. But at the end of the day, whatever the message is, if that doesn't align, it's not going to be successful. So wherever that message needs to change, that needs to change. But one way or another, it's got to be aligned. Otherwise, you will lose people quite quickly. Review your business on technology, like we said. Do you have enough technology? Is the technology that is expected by new generations? On the other hand, make sure that whenever you implement technology, there's enough guidance, there's enough support, for your existing team members, so that they don't lose the plot and lie awake at night and say, "Whoa, I'm never going to learn this. I'm not an IT. I didn't go into hospitality for IT. I just went there because I am a great host. I'm a great, server. I'm a great bartender. That is who I am. And now all of a sudden, I feel like I'm the IT person in the building, and that's not what I wanted." So again, make sure, but have those conversations with your team as you're implementing technology. Is this working for you? How can we help? How can we assist and help with that process? Ask your new team members, is this technology, does that work for you? So have those open communications with your team members as you're implementing technology. So I think there's a number of things you could do reasonably quick. I mean, it needs to be, of course, a larger, I think a larger kind of view as an industry on how we can do certain things in different ways. But I think as an operator, there are already some of these things you can do immediately.
Yeah, I think I used an example once on a very similar question, and it was about a time when I was working in an investment company and we revisited benefits. And I remember it now, 5 of us in central office made a decision to kind of get one of these perks and rewards programs. And we launched it into the business. We were all patting ourselves on the back, thinking that we'd made this substantial implementation in the business that was going to be really heavily used. The team were going to love us and all the rest of it. And after 6 months, we had 0.3% engagement in the rewards part of the platform, and we had 85% engagement in online GP. And we all kind of looked at ourselves and we were like, "Well, we don't understand this. We're giving them supermarkets free, cheaper, and all these perks. They get free coffee in one of the coffee stores in the UK for free, and I don't understand." And we went and spoke to our teams, and they were just like, "It's so clunky. To buy a voucher for the supermarket, we have to put up £100, and if we don't spend £100, we don't get any money back. So you can never really use the voucher." And what was important to them was the online GP. It was that thing of trying to get to see the GP here in the UK is so difficult. A lot of the time, people feel really uncomfortable with it. So to do the online GP was much more valuable to them. And we made a decision as a business there to kind of buy our way out of that contract, and we moved to a health provider who could do much more than just online GP in terms of how they could look after wellness of the team. And it had so much more engagement, and it taught me a valuable lesson that you touched on there, which is whenever you're looking to put something into the business, make sure you get the stakeholders who are going to use that platform, use that benefit, whatever it might be, to sign off on it, because what you think they might need is very different to what they probably actually need, value, and would like. So I think back to what you were saying, that it's a great example of kind of bringing people in from the whole team to make a collective decision, because it garners much more engagement in the long run, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's location dependent too. I can tell you that we did something in when I was in Asia, and what was really important to them was getting some coverage for dentist or for going to the optometrist. And what we did at the end was we said, okay, well then annually per year, one of the benefits that you'll get is 150 or whatever the amount was, towards that. And that was way more valuable than, the good old cake or the donuts or and I think that's something where we need to get rid of as well. It's like you touched on well-being, and I think well-being is a key aspect. And a lot of big companies talk about well-being, but in general, they talk about well-being, for clients as part of, the sales process. I think we need to really apply well-being, within the teams, within hospitality. I mean, we make long hours, it's hard work, it can be super stressful. I mean, we all know that. So to have access to well-being, I think is it's got to be a key thing nowadays. And if that and that can be, like you said, we talk to your team. What does well-being mean to you? Does it mean a fitness membership, or does it mean that you would like to get your dentist covered, or does it mean, what does it mean? And let's make sure that, if housekeeping does something well, or F&B, let's not buy, the pizza party and bring in the donuts and say, oh, well done, team. I mean, that no longer, I think, no longer fits. I think we're better off to save up that money of the donuts and the pizzas and all that, and to say, well, that on an annual basis will cost us 100 or 150 or 200, whatever you spent on that kind of stuff, and say, but we'll give that money to you to spend on well-being. And well-being might be for you fitness, or it might be for you to go swimming, or it might be for you to get your glasses replaced, or depending on, I think, but again, that's something, talk to your team about it. What is important, and let them make the decision on what is important to them. I think that's a key thing nowadays.
Yeah, for sure. I had a conversation with a recruitment agent actually, and he's very passionate about kind of mental health for various different reasons. But he gave each of his team member £1,000 a year to spend in any way they liked to help their mental health, whatever that might be. No questions asked. You got it in your pay and you did it. One of his ways, and I remember him telling me, was he bought Lego, because when he did Lego, he switched off and he just completely forgot all the stresses of life. And he spoke to me one day, and he was frustrated because his accountant had knocked back his expenses claim. And but again, you pick up all these conversations, and one of the great things I love about what I'm doing right now is I have conversations with 2 or 3 different people a week, and all these things kind of come up, and you build it, because what that says to me is personalization for the team and for your people is so key. Is he could have gone out and exactly what you were saying, he could have done a nice staff party, he could have done all of these things, but he allowed them to have their own mark on how to spend that money that was right for them. And I think that's another thing that is definitely coming through, both from a guest perspective and a team member perspective, is how you can personalize experience is going to really put you at the forefront of kind of being a market leader, isn't it? It's really becoming quite powerful, and I think people have to find ways of being able to put that into their business effectively.
And we know how to do it because we do it for our guests daily, don't we? We just need to.
Exactly.
I mean, we talk about it all the time. It's about how do we personalize, the service to our guest, and every organization will have a different name of how they call that. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to one simple thing: how do we personalize, this particular, element to the guest in their service process? And the first thing that we say is we got to listen to the guest. Right? We need to pick up on what they say, and then when we pick up on that, we can create something out of that is personalized to them, so that's what we do, so we listen to our guests, we overhear things, and then we go like, oh, they make a comment about something that they loved, and then, we try to incorporate that into their stay or into their experience, and that's how we personalize it. That is moments of time, because we only have short amounts of time that we have with our guests, so we pick things up in a matter of seconds or minutes. Sometimes we spend, I don't know how much time with our colleagues, probably more than you sometimes spend with your family. I mean, I take a look at my career, I spent more time with my colleagues than I spent with my family.
Absolutely.
And in that, there's so many moments we could do exactly the same, but we don't. And I think that that's where, the key is like, pick up on those moments, create those same experiences, and make sure there are funds available to do that, to help them with that, And I think that, that to me is one of the other ways, you could probably make an impact tomorrow.
For sure. And I think that's a really good piece of advice. And you're right. We spend a lot of time on guests, but we probably should spend more on our teams and employees. So I agree with that. Coming to the end of the show, I want to close on kind of 3 questions, and quite short, kind of snappy answers here. But what would be your 3 main values?
My 3 main values. Integrity is probably my key main value. I think everything hangs around that. Integrity, honesty, and for what it's worth, fairness. I think that, and fair is always an interesting one, because what is fair to one, the other one might not find fair. But to me, it means that you have taken the time to listen to each other, and you have taken the time to see each other's point of view, and you have taken the time to come to a conclusion. And that doesn't mean you always have to agree on everything, but you have come to a conclusion where both parties live with. I think that nowadays we are very quickly and easily influenced by everything that happens around us, and the overload of information. And because of an overload of information, we sometimes don't, know and see everything, that we probably need to see. Just taking time for each other as humans, and making sure that, you treat everybody, with kindness and respect. I think that, and as fair as possible.
What does success mean to you?
Success to me means being healthy, being happy, having opportunities for yourself and others around you, to that you can enjoy together. I think one of the key things for me in terms of success is only one of those things that I personally can feel if we have achieved things together. I think that's one of the key things for me.
Yeah, it's awesome. And final question: if you had this opportunity to give recognition to anyone, who would that be? And the show is yours to say thank you or to give recognition to someone.
I think, of course, my first thing is straight away my family. I mean, I've over the years have received great support, and I think that's the key thing for me. Life for all of us. I mean, everybody has their challenges and their opportunities and their ups and their downs, and in life you got family and some really good friends, that no matter what happens are always behind you. And I think those are the ones to thank first. I think the other part is the people that have trusted me over the years with might have been their hotel, their property, or me being part of their career journey. It's always wonderful to feel that other people trust you and for your opinion, for your support, for your qualities. So that would be probably more on a professional level. But I think in our industry you meet so many people over the years, and too many to mention. But I definitely have a long list of people that I'm thankful for, and for being part of my journey in my life.
Perfect. And finally, if anyone's been listening to this and wants to know more about Hospo Life or wants to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
Well, the easiest thing is to just go onto www.hospo.life, and there is of course every module is there, everything that I spoke about earlier is there. It's very easy for the site. Also get in contact. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm available on LinkedIn under my own name, Wouter de Graaf. And I look forward to making more connections and see how together we can drive things forward. So for the industry, for hospitality, for tourism.
Thank you very much for being on the show. Really appreciate it. I really enjoyed the chat, and I think there was so many great points out there that people could implement. So thank you very much. You've been listening to Hospitality Huddles, where hospitality meets conversation one huddle at a time. Hospitality Huddles is brought to you in partnership with Auden Hospitality. Visit the website at www.audenhospitality.com. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.